You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's the most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And I guess this morning, Nanaya Achimpem Jantwa is General Secretary of the CPP. She's right here in the studio. Thank you so much for making time to join us. Joseph Albert Kwam, popularly known as Prof, former MP Manson Kwanta, is also here in the studio. Thanks for joining us, sir. On Zoom, we are joined by Dr. Steve Mantea, our co-chair, Ghana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, Dr. Yao Graham, coordinator, Third World Network Africa, and Dr. Ken Ashigbe, engineer. He's convener Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining. As we promised, we'll deal very briefly with one of the thorny issues that, strikes at the heart of our democracy and the coming elections in the way that Kodeo talks about it. There are problems in Kenya, Nigeria, also because of election bodies' management of the situation. And the Peace Council in Ghana is equally concerned going into the elections, the development, and the fact that the Afrobarometer, surveys have shown that the EC's trust in the EC, public trust in the EC, has plummeted very badly to a trust level of only 10%. We'll deal with that very briefly with our guest who will choose to comment on it. And then we'll go to the next issue. And when we do, Dr. Yao Graham has to leave us, so he will do a quick, discussion of the matter of where Ghana finds itself in the illicit gold trade, and also mirroring that on the Professor Frimpong Boateng report. Then he will take leave of us. The rest of our guests will help us to do the rest of the discussion for the very first segment. So, you must be aware. Let me start with Nanaya Jantwa here in the studio. And I've heard that you have actually, given some comments on the back of the NDC's petition to the Council of State to take a step. I don't know whether the Council of State can revoke the appointment of these individuals or not, but that is their petition. So what can be done about it? But before we get into that part of the discussion, I need to quickly mention this, that Newsfile notes that Sheikh Alhaji T.B. Bamba denies familial or any relationship with Hajia Salima Ahmed Tijani, one of the persons just appointed to the EC. The former NPP executive and former ambassador stationed in Saudi Arabia demands through his lawyers a retraction of the claim earlier made on this show. Of course, it's made everywhere else. And we do so accordingly, jointly with Kodeo. So that is a retraction as demanded by his lawyers, and we needed to do that immediately before we begin that part of the discussion. The NDC, in their petition, in respect of Dr. Apia Hene, they say, among others, that he was or is a member of the 2022 Bono Regional Election Committee of the NPP, Bono Regional IT Director for Elections 2020 for the NPP, Bono Regional D-Day Coordinator for Election 2020 for the NPP, member of the National Research and Data Analysis Team for Election 2020 for the NPP, Regional Coalition Officer for the NPP Internal Coalition for the 2020 elections, member of the Bono Regional Communication Team of the NPP. Last week, we showed some of his comments that he was making in radio stations and television stations in defense of the NPP and berating the NDC. In respect of Hajia, it's the things that we already know. They say that she's evidently and perceptibly bears partisan coloration, which clearly violates any hope of neutrality and impartiality required of a member of the Electoral Commission. And they joined CODEO and other civil societies to ask that because of her mother having been the first vice chair or so of the NPP, because of her sister who has contested on the NPP's ticket in elections and is still seeking to contest again, they think that the two are not qualified. Do you agree with them, together with the CODEO, that these two, their nominations should be revoked? And what can the Council of State do? That's where we are. That's a new twist.
Samson, thank you very much. Good morning to your viewers this morning. And good morning to your team. Good morning to my comrades in the CPP. And good morning to Ghanaians. The twist of the Council of State. Is it not the same Council of State that... So why are you laughing?
Please go ahead.
Is it not the same Council of State that was consulted, to choose the people? According to the Constitution, when the President appoints, he consults, or he or she consults with the Council of State before an approval is made. Even I saw the nomination for the current Chief Justice. The story said she was even chosen by the Council of State and the President had to approve. So if you are going...
The current Chief Justice?
Yes.
No,
there's a nomination for a new Chief Justice.
No, officially no.
It was on the graphic, so it's not official.
The
graphic story.
That Justice Tokono is tipped.
Yes.
There are two people who are being said they are tipped. Yoni Kolendi and Justice Tokono.
Oh, okay.
So that one is not nominated
Okay,
yet,
so because the news said that she has been nominated.
Oh, okay.
Okay, then. So, it's the same Council of State. So, what do they expect the Council of State to do? Can they, turn back their own decision? And besides, they've heard all the arguments that are going on. They haven't come out to say anything. They knew the people that they were approving for the president to, appoint.
Maybe they didn't have the information that is now out.
No, but why don't you have the information? Because once somebody is appointed or nominated to be approved by the president and you are consulted, you should ask questions. There is nothing like you do not know. You see, that is why we in the CPP we are saying that there should be some drastic review of the Constitution. The appointment of the EC should not be done by the president. The appointment of the EC should be done by a committee of politicians or political parties. Then the EC would have to go through, whoever it is, has to go through the Public Service Commission. There should be about 3, 4, 5 people who have to go through the Public Service Commission.
There should be advertisement.
Advertisement, go through vetting with the Parliament, then swear before the Speaker.
Okay. So you think what they are asking for now, they won't get it?
Because what they've taken they've made it because the Council of State are part of this appointment.
Okay.
So if you are part of
does it matter that they copied the letter to the Peace Council, the European Union Observer Team, the African Union Observer Team, the Catholic Bishops' Conference, the Christian Council, the American Ambassador, the British High Commissioner, the German ambassador to Netherlands? Does it matter that they did all that?
That one it does, because on that score, maybe because of the peace of the sub-region, these groups would look into it. But for Council of State, I do not think that if you appoint somebody, you really believe in it. Are you telling me the chairman of the council doesn't know who these people are? This is a critical, then we have a problem.
So do you share the view that these people are indeed not qualified because of their association with the NPP?
You see,
or membership to the NPP? If we say
qualification, then we are saying that, okay, maybe they don't have the requisites, but we are saying that they are not supposed to be there because they have a political color. And once they have my biggest problem is with the gentleman, Apia Hene. He is an IT person. And from what people are saying, he's been in charge of the party IT. So, if I know what I know as somebody who has worked in corporate Ghana, when he goes there are subcommittees of a commission or a board. It is likely that he will be made the chairman of the subcommittee of IT. Do you get me? And that is where the crux of the matter is. And this is somebody who has a political color. What does it take the president if he takes a neutral person? You don't have to.
You sit on IPAC. How are you going to proceed when you sit in meetings where he will be there, being publicly against, their, inclusion in the EC?
Oh, I mean, how do I behave? I sit there to represent my party. So it is my party's interest that I'm going to espouse. And you see, the point is that it is as if it is the NDC, this duopoly thing. I think all of us should be concerned. Because in 2024, the way the atmosphere is, you cannot tell which party that would win the election.
All right. Okay. You want to say something about this?
He was fidgeting.
Yeah, very briefly.
Anyway, I don't see anything wrong appointing Dr. Appiah because he's competent, he's knowledgeable.
They say he should not be allowed to get to the ECIT at all, especially that NPP has an IT system that it's been doing, so they may compromise the process.
How? When Martin Amidu was appointed to head this place, why didn't they complain?
Which place?
I'm talking about special prosecutor.
It's an independent constitutional body that's supposed to be neutral.
Yeah.
In the case of this one, I don't see his affiliation with any MPP.
Imagine, you don't see his affiliation.
Yes.
No, he's affiliated. That one, he's a member of the MPP.
Yes.
You don't see how that affects his job. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay. Imagine yourself. We can't help but call you Prof. Kwam. That's what we know. Imagine yourself, say, that you were in the opposition, and this was NDC doing this appointment. You will say that you see nothing wrong with it.
Why? Oh. No, because even EEC, before MPP came to power, those people over there were appointed by NDC. But yet they did the right thing. And MPP won.
Okay. Let's get on the phone and the Zoom and hear what our other guests have to say. Thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Steve Mantia, maybe I start with you. What do you have to say? Hello, sir. Please unmute your mic.
Yeah, thank you. I think the matter under discussion borders on the building of public trust in our state institutions, especially one as important as the Electoral Commission. And it is a reason that I believe that even though the person in contention is said to be competent, we may need to adhere to the loud calls for his withdrawal. Otherwise, we'll be setting the stage for future electoral disputes, and that may not bode well for this country. I've heard calls that the Council of State should withdraw their advice to the president. I do not personally see to what effect, because the advice of the Council of State is only an advice, unless it is actually mandatory on the president to take that advice. Withdrawing that advice can only have one of a moral effect or weaken the moral grounds on which the president has acted. But apart from that, it may not be able to force the president to do otherwise or to withdraw the appointments. I again think that making representations to the Council of State is in order because the council may not have been privy to these facts that are now coming up in arriving at the particular advice they offered the president. So yes, they may want to reconsider their advice. But question remains whether that advice, again, had to bind on the president.
All right. But in respect of the woman, Madam Salima Tijani, is it really a big deal that her mother was the first elected women, first vice chairperson of the NPP? And I'm reading from the Codeo release. And then of the NPP in the northern region, while her sister, Hajia Abibata Shani Mohammed Zakaria, is CEO of the Microfinance and Loans Center, Maslow, contested the 2020 NPP primaries for the Yendi constituency and has already publicly announced her intention to contest again for Yendi in 2024. They say that that's multiple close familiar relations with leading and active NPP figures raise apparent conflict of interest concerns, and for that matter, a legitimate perception and appearance of a lack of independence. Nanaya said a while ago, she's not really concerned about this woman, but Dr. Apia Hene. Do you share the same view?
No, I do not. You see, we are dealing with a case of conflict of interest or potential conflict of interest. And unfortunately, we do not seem to have clear rules in this country regarding how we cure any potential conflict of interest. I think Shrag, a few years back, was working on something of the sort. I don't know what became of it. But in some corporate institutions and globally, I mean, even within the multilateral institutions, the UN and the rest, husband and wife cannot work in one institution. If there is for instance, with Coca-Cola, there is a contest and you have a staff working there, a relative cannot participate in the contest and all that. I mean, corporate institutions and multilateral institutions tend to have clear conflict of interest rules to avoid these kinds of situations. It looks like we are dealing with a situation that has no clear rules governing it in this country, and that is why we are in this difficulty. But I can expect that to the extent that you have close family relations, what do you call it, in the party that is appointing you, then of course you are likely to be influenced in the decisions that you arrive in the course of your work. And that is why I believe that the issues regarding this lady also has to be taken quite seriously if we want to build public trust in our institutions.
Thank you. Dr. Ken Ashigbe, you want to say something about this? I want to get to Dr. Yao Graham last so that I will continue with him on the substantive issue of the illicit gold trade and the Professor Boateng report so he can take leave of us. Yes, Dr. Ken Ashigbe.
Well, thank you very much. Samson, I think the independence of our institutions it's very paramount, and it's important that we place that at the center of everything we do. It is not, and I completely agree, it's not only just by qualification. The perceptions are also very important. I remember when I applied to be managing director of a state-owned media organization, I was asked, whether I had any party card, and that became a subject of investigation to verify that that would not happen.
Your extensive experience as one of those who had managed Ghana's foremost and formidable media institutions in this country, private, didn't matter?
No, so you see, you could have all of that experience, but the question is that you needed to show that you were independent, you were neutral. So once you are a member of any political party, already not being it even calls that into question. And the most important thing is what appears, and that is very significant. And we know the way elections have landed a lot of us. So for me, for the gentleman, and I'm surprised, Prof is my friend, but I completely disagree with him. How do you think that you are going to play a Has Kotoko match, and then you know that this particular person is either works at one of the chapters or the circles, and you say that that person is appointed as a referee or a linesman, and you think it does not matter because he has qualification to be a referee? No. You see, it is
the president in swearing them in said the managers don't matter. It is the votes that matter. They can do anything to your votes.
Well, I completely disagree with the president in that particular step. There are processes that lead, to elections. There are systems that are put in place to an election. And especially when it comes to somebody who is involved in IT. And we know the challenges we've had, with elections. And, the last, I think it was in the 2016 elections. And what happened to the EC? We had comments about the fact that, their systems had been hacked and all of that. So, the thing about it is not just what is, but what appears. I know you lawyers talk about the fact that, justice is not only what is done, but what appears to be done. Because a lot of the decisions people will take are emotive, and those things lead to it. So for me, there's several people in this country that can take up these positions. So anything that is likely to lead to these things, because we know the two parties.
All right.
And when they're in opposition, they sing one particular tune. When they're in power, they sing another tune. So don't give them an opportunity to sing that particular tune.
Right. To be frank with you, I mean, some of these things, I don't hide my thinking about them because, Joseph Kwam is sitting here and he says he sees nothing wrong. I've sat on this seat for over a decade, and I know what they would have done if it was in a situation. What they would have done would have been far stronger than what the NDC is doing today. They are better at mobilizing the media on issues than the NDC is capable or is better at doing. So do you think that the NDC petitioning the Council of State can change anything? What intervention can the Council of State make?
Well, I think that basically they are doing it for the optics more than for the substantial change that can be occasioned. But it's important that all of us, guard the processes that will lead to an election to ensure that, we are able to preserve our peace as a country.
Dr. Al Graham, thank you very much for your time. The Codeo's suggestion was that these individuals should voluntarily resign themselves because they didn't see the possibility of the president revoking the appointment because he has power to do so. They were pointed to the fact that these things can actually be a process for a court. In this country, one of the grounds for dismissal of an MD of a state-owned media organization is discovery of partisanship. This is an independent constitutional body. Do you think the approach that the NDC is taking will yield any results?
Well, I mean, when I was not fully versed with the legalities of this issue, but when this discussion started, I quickly started looking at the constitutional provisions and the statutory provisions on the removal of commissioners, members of the Electoral Commission, and the power, the role of the Council of State will seem to be extinguished once they have expressed their opinion on whether the person is fit for office or not. I think that there's a political weight that will come if the Council of State came out and said, actually, on reflection, we were not aware of ABCD when we offered an opinion that this person is fit for a particular role, and therefore we regret. I mean, so that will be a political intervention. But given the political culture in this country, where key institutions unfortunately fall in line behind the ruling party and the executive on key issues, I mean, that would be an earthquake, and I don't expect, that anything of the sort is likely to happen. So the president was being deliberately narrow-minded in focusing on qualification, because the law talks about being qualified to be a member of parliament and a Ghanaian citizen and so on. But you know what? I mean, every public officer, the nature of the role that the person would perform creates a gray zone, of principles about how to build legitimacy and public confidence in the office. And those are not narrowly legal, although I think the points made by both Steve and Ken about the traditions of conflict of interest, the traditions about the exercise of discretion, because the president has a discretion.
Did we lose Dr. Yao Graham? Doc, I don't know if you have mistakenly tapped on your microphone. We can't hear you.
Sorry.
Hello, Dr. Yao Graham. I think if you can hear us, please quickly rectify your situation, because we want to come to you to look at the gold
issues
situation.
Being raised here are very important. I mean, so...
Oh, his line is getting bad. Okay, now his line is off. So this is what I'll do. I'll take a quick break. We'll return to deal with the matter of illicit gold, Ghana being a major transit point, and mirroring that on the... Okay, Dr. Yao Graham is back. Please, we lost you.
Let me wrap up. So
right.
Basically, I think going forward, this has brought back again the issue of establishing some clear principles about the exercise of discretion by people when it comes to appointment, clear rules about conflict of interest, because we have a number of instances where people have been declared not to have a conflict of interest simply because they are technically qualified for a role and so on. And given that there's the degradation of public office which is taking place in so many years, I think this is a key issue politically and also legally for all of our citizens to drive around going forward.
Okay, but you talk about exercise of discretion and the need for, some laws around that. Which law is bigger than the Constitution? And the Constitution is very clear.
The Constitution has a theory of discretion, and it has the fair-mindedness and so on and so forth.
It must not be capricious.
Yeah. So these are bases. But I've forgotten there's a particular Supreme Court decision which have been kind of decried by people as having the potential of narrowing that.
Okay.
But the discretionary power, the conflict of interest principles, these are two key things which are restraints on power.
All right.
In every situation, which have to be developed as well about a kind of administrative law regime, which guides the use of power.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yao Graham. We'll be back shortly.